The Two Seeds at War, a discourse on the dragon and the serpent throughout prophetic history. By Martin M. Semugeshi B.A. July 29, 2015. Introduction. Daniel 2 verse 43. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. The intended audience was born into an ongoing cosmic arena, a prison house. As they prepare themselves for the trials and challenges ahead, they must also develop a stronger knowing in a power greater than man. It must be faced. The world is in trouble. The worst perpetrated by humans throughout history has been the direct result of satanic influence. This is what people are taught to think, but no one has ever shown or taught them how deep the rabbit hole goes. The Bible clearly depicts the ongoing struggle between the forces of good and evil. As the earth is the policing body for the world, there is also a united body in heaven that polices the universe of created beings. This book is designed to help those true students of prophecy who wish to obtain a clearer view on Bible prophecy and world events. It is free for download, so readers are advised not to waste this information. They can check the facts here with the supporting scripture texts to back it up. They are encouraged to check it for themselves. It contains current and perhaps shocking information that they may be reading for the first time. The author highly recommends they investigate the facts for their own satisfaction. It is not good to be silent in the face of this information. There is a reptilian seed upon the earth that was fathered by an intelligent fallen angel called Lucifer. He ranked high in galactic command and goes by other names, depending on the culture. This book is titled The Two Seeds at War. Outlined in this book is the historic origin of two seeds. It is hard for some to see why there is constant strife, murder, stealing, war, tragedy, and turmoil in the world without first seeing the origin of the two seeds, Cain's race and Seth's race. Cain's race is the evil reptilians or the genetic lineage of the serpent. Scripture says a good tree seed cannot bring forth bad fruit, just as a bad tree seed cannot bring forth good fruit. So each genetic bloodline of people on earth must fruit in the image of their genetic family tree. John 8 verse 44. Most of the human race is under the control and domination of a cruel and remorseless genetic intelligence known as sin. Though all men have sinned, transgressed, all men are not under the control of sin. Believe it or not. There are those born as the direct blood, children of God, and then those others who are the direct seed, children of the serpent. And this is the great controversy in the world. Some people are quick to believe that all the people upon the earth are good and God loves everyone, and that all can be saved. This is simply not true. Most are deceived by these genetic reptilian humans, as they are unable or unwilling to see how this is impossible, as a bad seed, tare, cannot be saved any more than a lion can be tamed. Inasmuch as reptilian human hybrids have mixed amongst the people of the Creator, all sin is initiated by the contact or influence of these reptilians of men who have not the Spirit of God in them. By mixing their seed among the whole world, they have poisoned the truth from the minds of God's created beings, passed down through lower races. One shall always know a tree by its fruit. The result of cause and effect is all around us. The power to gain and control the riches in this world is given to the serpent seed race, and most of the sheep, the good seed, are coveting the riches of the evil seed to their own demise, and in this they err. The church wants to be like the world, and so they have the two seeds at war. One class wants material things, and the other wants to serve God. Now nothing is wrong with riches if gained in honesty. The problem is it is impossible to do both, serve sin and God, at the same time. Unless, of course, both are the same thing. One should listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The one who received the seed that fell on rocky places is the man who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since he has no root, he lasts only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, he quickly falls away. The one who received the seed that fell among the thorns is the man who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke it, making it unfruitful. But the one who received the seed that fell on good soil is the man who hears the word and understands it. He produces a crop, yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Good seed can only produce good seed, Bad seed produces bad seed. Eve, the human, is the victim woman, the experiment that was used to father Cain into the world. Cain was of that wicked race. 1 John 3 verse 12. Cain, after killing Abel, produced what people call not a reptile, but once a wild people. These children were wild party and pleasure lovers, dating and lusting after their idols. The reptilian beings, in human form, use now the controlling factor in the earth, world wars, governments, economy, like the IMF, entertainment, the music industry, Hollywood, and the many churches of Babylon. Believe it or not, the reptilians have totally dominated cities like New York, California, France, Paris. Any unprotected cities cannot long remain under the control of God, and their children are there. Africa is a mixed-bred nation, as are most of them. At the start of the Egyptian civilization, right after the Sumerian civilization, the god kings who ruled began to mix breeding with the Israelites, Nubians, notably King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, and who knows who else. Ham's son Canaan migrated to Africa, around the Nile and the rivers of Ethiopia, and thus the mixed heritage of Ham's god kings, and later the Indians, Dravidians, are darker without hair. All of Abraham's seed were black, so only they could tolerate the heat in Egypt, which could reach 120 degrees. The Israelites were kin to the Egyptians and were mostly black Nubians, Puerto Ricans, and Jamaicans today. The Nubians and Egyptians mixed and traded in and around their homelands, which stretched from the Upper Nile down to Sudan. The people there were considered swarthy because of their obvious dark appearance. The first black pharaohs were Nubians, as well as those of Ethiopia who supplanted them, as they were the dark kings who ruled through dynasties where one family rules. There was only kingship in the time of the latter-day pharaohs. There was Upper and Lower Egypt during the time of Moses and the Exodus. A king could rule another lower. This was long before the Greek invasion into Egypt by Alexander and the Ptolemies. Since the children of Israel were to turn away from the Egyptian worship that they followed, and to right their wrong, they were given some of the 613 commandments of the pharaohs. The 613 confessions were statements and commandments. They were given 10 commandments, repeated by the Hebrew genealogy, which has a numerical value of 10, the number of fingers on one's hands, and 10 hours of the day. This is found in 9:9, 38:31, and Amos 5 verse 8, and is the word Kema in Aramaic, Hebrew. It is the ancient name of Egypt, Keri. These laws from heaven came, meaning down to this planet Earth in Egypt, and set up Nubian culture, Genesis 2 verse 7. The planet was all one land mass, and when it split, people were trapped wherever they were. Many migrated back, those that could not, as the land masses spread further and further apart, stayed, Genesis 10 verse 25. A Nubian family represents how the original Egyptians looked. The Egyptians are why everyone gets information from ancient Egypt. The statues that are seen in Egypt are like Sobuk, who is a crocodile-headed being. Cloning was mastered in Egypt first. The first alchemists were in Al-Chem. All of the populations of men in the world today have mixed children and lineages throughout their populations, to which they know not how they came about. There is no person on earth today who is totally pure and not mixed from Adam. The text is in Genesis 3 verse 23. Thus many today find themselves helpless and hopeless within their inherited and cultivated tendencies to evil. The confusion of intermixing and the cultural and spiritual consequences of amalgamation between the pre-flood groups brought wickedness and genetic evils throughout generations that could only be quenched by a flood. The author highlights some of these evils for the reader as they go along. The cultural intermingling and intermarrying between the sons of Seth and the daughters of Cain, and also the seed of the fallen angels, produced men in the image of God but the likeness of Satan, called Nephilim. All of these that the world has ever seen, like Enoch's, Isaiah's, and scientists of today, have all been mingling in communion with serpents. They own wealth, glory, and race. The civilizations before the flood principally produced these men of renown, like men in today's world, who prefer service to self over God. In every generation, the blessed men become examples. This audiobook was uploaded by Hidden Whispers Revelation on YouTube. Please subscribe and like the video to support this work if you enjoyed listening. Note, through the process of slow integration and assimilation, the sons of Seth came to lose their affection for the daughters of Cain, so that they lost their peculiar culture and fell corrupted. Whereas trading was innocent and not a crime, the habits of taste, dress, and passion pertaining only to Cain's posterity slowly crept into the camp of the children of Seth, until attitudes and perceptions to it became numbed. Thus they lost their distinctiveness, and their passions were at last found dormant and awakened in the line of Seth. Children were unhappy, saw their fights, jealousies, tensions, and greed entertain the hearts of the young and old among the leaders. The only hope for Seth lay in the integrity of youths like Enoch, who were taught the truth from childhood and confirmed they would not defile themselves. Within their nations they hoped to reach fellow brethren and sisters with firmness of character, truth, and a life of virtue that was rendered in that they, the people, would lose and practice the old in their circle. Few would do so. That is the result. They lost the knowledge of God through ignorance. The children born to this alliance, daughters of Cain and sons of Enos, in their generations felt no love for the God of Adam or his laws. They each chose their own truth. Sicknesses, premature death, and lack of ruin, selfishness, were the final result of mingling with the Cain group, and it did not stop. The demarcation between holy and unholy was faint. The curse was felt in the moral, physical, and intellectual feebleness of the future posterity. Unless a plan had been devised to recover the line of Seth, they would be lost. The pre-flood generations had human hybrids, mixed races, and alien hybrids, aliens bred with humans. Today one cannot even tell who is what. Most have several different bloodlines and seed lines, and attitudes running through their family. Everyone is mixed with everyone, and with the breakdown of the language barrier, it is very hard to trace the true children of God anymore. That is why the Apostle John proclaimed, "For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." John 3 verse 16. Readers must use their own intuition to decipher between the two seeds. This writing will give them the facts of the two seeds or lineages in as much detail as possible throughout their histories, so that they with their two eyes can put the pieces together and see the bigger picture. All the children of color are one family, yet they are not all children that are of Ham. Now not all of the ancestors of the children of Ham were Jewish. Referring to Genesis, Adam, Abraham, Enoch, Noah, and all of their subsequent descendants throughout their generations were not Jewish or Christian. They were pastoralists, or what people call naturalists or nomadic. They worshiped God through nature and the senses. There was no accessible written information about God until after the flood. This is why the following knowledge will shock the reader. They must understand that although they were darker in appearance and taller, their seed has gone into all the world through their descendants. Abraham was chosen to be saved out of his generation, and before he was saved, he was first a fire worshipper of Zoroaster. His father Terah was a magi or magician, and it was not until Abraham found the knowledge of God in the schools in Egypt, Thebes, that he turned to the true God after his initiation by Melchizedek. He was now called Abram, Genesis 17 verse 5. He eventually repented of his polygamy and worshipped the true God. The 12 tribes of Ra, or Israel, are from Isaac. They settled in Africa. The 12 Arab princes from Ishmael through Hagar rule the Middle East even today. They live in Dubai mostly and neighboring Arab countries. Most of North Africa is Arab-ruled: Egypt, Libya, Mauritania. Both seeds were from Abraham. Noah's son Ham and Isaac's son Esau interbred with Nephilim, Genesis 6 verse 4, and Cain's races, but not all. At one time the Middle East was dominated with the Rephaim, and one could approach them. They built many cities similar to the ones today, Qatar, Dubai, and inhabited the earth as giants and god-kings. The remnants of the children of these god-kings were instrumental in the creation of ancient Egypt, Central and South America, and the Chinese, Asian, and Indian races. They had great scientific and construction technology that is not seen today. They directed medical procedures that doctors today have not yet discovered. In fact, they built the first great civilizations that are now wonders of the world. They were almost perfect. However, like the men who build nuclear technology, they went far in their thoughts and God destroyed them. Genesis 6 verse 5. At the height of every great civilization, when men reach the apex of the gods and forget their simplicity, They always destroy themselves. History is bound to repeat itself. Destruction is a way to maintain order and control genetics. When one wants to build a house, they first remove the ant hill, the trees, and the birds from the land. They remove the life and security of animals in order to build their house. It is the same thing with God. He removes or keeps what he wants. People are like his toy soldiers. Remember, the descendants of Cain founded the cities and were master engineers. Their progeny are those who invented the cities of America and Europe seen today. The constructions and skyscrapers. This brilliance in craftsmanship is inherent in their seed. The descendants of the black men, the Hamites, were great musicians and writers of poetry. As they recorded and kept the knowledge of God, civilizations like Egypt, Sumerian, and the Greeks used some of their ideas, which became instrumental to their progress and far-reaching impact world over. The seed of Ham knew the secret of how to move mountains. Today, the descendants of Ham created the forms of reggae and roots music and tribal customs like the Masons, Kumina. As the people of Haiti are direct Hamites, they mixed with French Europeans. The language of Haiti is a variation of French. Patois in Jamaica is a variation, dialect, of British English. The English have maintained a strong influence in most of their former colonies. Most of Jamaica mixed with Brits, Germans, Spanish, Chinese, and Indians. Pyramids at Giza, Cairo, Egypt. The Nile River, Egypt. Doha, Qatar. Nod, the origin. They were thought to be Europe, but it is very much like Qatar and Dubai, which is the land of Nod. The music of the Hamitic tribes. Though the music of the Hamites is not the same, as it is mostly corrupt through channels like reggae, it is still a force to be reckoned with. All races of humanity share all the gifts of talent, skill, and vocation, yet there are extremities and specialties within them. The intonation of each race is different, the inflection, pronunciation, and vocal quality. All races can make music, yet not all make the same kind of music. Without reserve, music is a gift of God given exclusively to the Hamitic race. The Hebrew Israelite tribes come from Africa. Africa is a coined word and not original lexicon. All other races learned music and rhythm out of Africa. The remnants of these men are the soulful ones, the greatest musicians the world had ever seen or heard. The Hebrews were herders, as well as singers, psalters, and dancers. Though greatly inferior today in stature, they still have the genetic and spiritual ability to make the music worth hearing. Reggae is the music of the Africans and the same root word as rebel. It is rebel music. There is nothing spiritual in its form today. The rebellious noise can make one mad and even possess them. The music was brought by slaves from West Africa who practiced rituals as tribal traditions. It was predominantly drum sound until it became synthetic and mixed. The music merged with calypso from Trinidad and the samba from Central America and evolved into minto, which is guitar-based. Minto was the first form of commercial music to gain fame in Jamaica. It continued to deteriorate. From minto, it became ska and rocksteady. Ska was influenced from minto and R&B in the 1950s. Stars like Ron Lee and the Drapenaires and ska artistes like Leroy Sibbles emerged before dance music or pop culture. Music crossed cultures and was enjoyed by other people not original to the culture. Then from ska came reggae. Satan took over this art form in the person of Bob Marley, reggae's finest rebel. Most of the music of Bob Marley has truth gems and facts and moral principles, yet it is a web of deception. This is hard to allow, but the reader is encouraged to keep reading. The artists of yesterday, like today's, were social commentators, reporting on the political and societal landscape. Bob Marley took reggae universal. From Bob Marley came artists like Freddie McGregor, Dennis Brown, and Gregory Isaacs. Reggae became big business. So dancehall is now the youth music, and it came from reggae, rebellion, rebels. Dancehall is called dub, like Benny Man, and continues to eventually dub poetry, like Mutabaruka, which is conscious reggae, now intelligent rebellion. The only people making money in reggae are the record companies. Dance music has an exciting, intoxicating effect on young people. It is dangerous and swims on the borderline of the spirit. Now the reader knows. The Chinese, on the other hand, were great hunters and technology or tool imitators because they came from the monkey race, otherwise called Neanderthal man. They built planes and weapons of mass destruction, as well as nearly extincting the dog population. The monkey and chimpanzee are not original to Chinese. Most of the population of Central Africa today are closely related to the chimpanzee. The genetic information is the same. The Chinese were extremely cannibalistic and aggressive, and so they created martial arts and the famous fighting styles. They are not spiritual people like they make others believe. They are a bad seed. Of course, there are the Hindu or Indians who are mostly mixed and grafted from the seed of Ham, as well as those in between who can blend into any culture. From this further and further apart, all humans were originally made of one blood. Acts 17 verse 26. Mixing and eating flesh is what caused confusion. Such cruelty to animals was seen only before the flood. Today men practice the same cruelty as their ancestors. Wheat versus tares. First, who are the tares? It is known from scripture that Satan's offspring had infiltrated the church and were able to pose as Seth's seed because of intermingling and blood sacrificing. Jesus in the Bible often rebuked the scribes and Pharisees and referred to them as sons of the devil, his literal descendants. Many in the churches today refer to the tares as those who do not worship and follow Jesus. Well, the problem today is that everyone follows Jesus, right? Everyone identifies with Jesus for convenience or style. Jesus should be the most well-known person in the world. Who has not heard of Jesus? Jesus is big business. It brings in money and makes people rich. In a nutshell, they are right and wrong at the same time. The majority in the Cain races do worship Jesus under a religion called Christianity. Cain and Christ start with the same letter. Both involve blood sacrifice, and both are cannibalistic. The majority in those races, although they claim to and give lip service to following him, they pretend just like Cain. The majority of the world is apostate through Christianity. Christianity is just like a mask entertainment. Most of the people in the churches are just pretending they know Jesus. They do not. The Serpent seed line, sons of Cain races, are the tares. The sons of Seth were lost until the Messiah came to find them. They are slowly returning to truth. When Seth separates from Cain, i.e., when the truth is in all the world, then Satan's world will end. They will fight each other to the death. They will self-destruct from within. Jesus said he came to bring division and a sword, not peace. Matthew 10 verse 34. The churches preach peace. The devil and his fallen angels are also tares, obviously. These are in human form as well. Humans and devils commingle in the churches. Only two main seeds exist. Mankind comes from one of these two seeds. The Lord or Satan, the good or the bad seed. Those that are redeemable and those that are not. Those that are prophet and those that are lost. The ones for the fire and the ones for the barn. The children of Satan are the Freemasons. Freemasonry itself is of Cain. Cain is a seed of Satan his father, i.e., the sons of Cain, a child of Eve, formed the satanic root of Freemasonry popular in Europe today. Cain's children are Europeans. They are the papacy. They work through religion and banking. There are other orders. Read carefully the following. In Genesis 4, Cain's offering was refused by the God of Abel. Cain became jealous and sacrificed his brother instead, thus the first human sacrifice or blood sacrifice for fame. Notwithstanding the fact that humans were created vegetarians, Genesis 1 verse 29, only a false god could initiate a false command and demand the killing of animals for his vegetarian people to eat them. The church itself denies the serpent seed is non-existent. The Jews of Israel, the one in the Middle East, are not the seed of Jesus. Revelation 3 verse 9 confirms this. Satan himself does not want humanity to discover him on earth and the controversy of what is really ongoing. The case of every person in the world is to be decided, and there is a separation, a shaking, as they speak. There was a man called Nikola Tesla who was involved in a conspiracy. Information was brought to the United States through German and other European scientists. Germans were controlled by the fallen beings, and who also controlled Hitler to commit his atrocities on the Jews. Hitler was originally Austrian and not German. They released a movie in 1965 called The Sound of Music that tells the tale of an Austrian commander who avoided recruitment by Hitler's armies. In the movie, von Trapp married a Catholic woman called Maria who was to be a nun but chose a worldly life instead. Nikola Tesla, engineer, inventor, 1856 to 1943. Though in human form, Tesla himself is not original to Earth, born of human parents. his origin is of different origin. Hitler had intent to win the war at any cost. Many of his scientists moved to Argentina and other South American countries and continued their experiments on contacting familiar spirits. Some of the Jews went and created Hollywood in America, in a place called Los Angeles, and recruited actors to tell tales to the world. There was a craft created on their behalf called There was a society that were used to get in contact with these beings from Aldebaran, a race of fallen beings, and was led by a Madame Blavatsky. They were 3 women with long hair of different colors that had never been cut: auburn, red, and white. To cut a long story, there was a man who approached Hitler and told him that to become powerful he needed to collect all religious relics. So he went on a quest to find the Ark of the Covenant of the Bible and was told it was in Ethiopia. He did not find it. He was told to search for the original cross that was said to have been somewhere else. He did not find that. Each time he went on a quest, he did not find what he was looking for. Hitler was originally from Austria, yet German, hence the movie. Once Hitler realized that the religion of the Jews was fake, he went to Tibet and then to India searching. Hitler was so furious at the Jews and his own being false that he tried to kill all of the Jews, not just the white ones. He lost his mind and demon-possessed, and many do not know Hitler was an occultist who went back to the worship of his Norse gods. The mystic told him his god is Odin. That is when he was connected with the Thule Society. The fallen angels used Hitler to do the work of death. Once he realized what he did, he took his own life. This is the truth. Hitler refused to live. The Dalai Lama is always running. He is Chinese, calling on an Indian, and he is not. The original inhabitants of Australia are the Aborigines, and once those white-skinned Europeans invaded Australia, they tapped into their DNA, as they have some of the oldest DNA on the planet. The Aborigines were dark people of Ham that moved down south from Africa after the Great Continental Split. They were literally off the map for thousands of years. When the Europeans came to Australia, they started breeding mixed children and then taking children and converting them to Christianity and breeding out of those children. So by the 4th generation, one has a very light, brown, or white called mulatto. These mulattoes are still in Australia today. There are those whose skin complexion is so dark they are considered blue. These are the original people. The earth was from the Pygmy tribe. There are 2 groups, those that were short, the little people in Congo, and those that were tall, like the Watusi of Central Africa. Christianity represented a new form of Christianity that really hated the Jews. They believed that Jews were responsible for killing Christ. So the Hitler movement was really a Christian movement for revenge on the Jews. Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan nation, and Hitler studied Sumerian and sent his scientists to Tibet to study. His study of Canaanite doctrine found things that sat well with him, like the gods and their temples. The Russian Jews called Ashkenazim, Tsars, who practiced Judaism since 740 AD. The Nazi used the Celtic cross, which is also the cross that came down to the Christian and other crosses. Many of the crosses are symbolic of the swastika, the cross of Egypt. The cross is symbolic of the Ankh, representing the cycle of life, or 360 degrees of a circle, no beginning and no end. The symbol from the cross of Ankh, a symbol of a Celtic cross, also speaks to Wicca, Zoroaster, fire worship, or demon worship, which came from ancient Babylon. The Bible is the exact rendition of various pagan texts because much of the pagan reptilian texts were intentionally mixed in which speaks to Wicca or vicarious atonement and continue in the form of human sacrifices. The Star of Chaldea, those who worshipped many gods by fire. Chaldea, which is in Babylon. The Chaldeans were a people whom the Bible condemns. Dictator Adolf Hitler, from Austria, to Germany during World War II, who was demon-possessed by evil fallen spirits, the giants that are responsible for the writing of the Bible, as the devil and the devil's god, where he requires blood, animal, and human sacrifices. This is of cover-ups during WW2 by European scientists. Besides Hitler was Guglielmo Marconi, 1874 to 1937, an Italian inventor and electrical engineer also known as the father of wireless telegraphy. Marconi was a student of Tesla. Marconi studied radio transmission theory with Tesla and made the first successful radio transmission in 1926 AD. Marconi and Tesla are both accredited with the discovery of the radio. Benito Mussolini, 1883 to 1945. In June 1936 AD, Marconi demonstrated to the Italian leader Benito Mussolini a wave gun device that could be used as a weapon. In the 1930s, devices were popularized as death rays. Tesla was known for a project he invented and worked on called the death ray. The death ray was capable of destroying 10,000 airplanes at 250 miles distance. It was intended to combat any threat from outer space and inner Earth. He heard about the invention and took steps to have Mussolini stop Marconi's research. In 1930 AD, Marconi and Cardinal Pacelli, who was the Secretary of State to Pope Pius XI, arranged with Marconi for a powerful shortwave radio station to be constructed in the Vatican City so Roman Catholic opinion and the voice of the Pope himself could reach the most distant parts of the world. When the station was completed in 1931 AD, it gave the Vatican a means of world communication independent of the Italian government. Mussolini wanted to broadcast his propaganda ideas, but it came during a time when the enormous influence of the Pope was against fascist activities in the Vatican. The irony is the fact that Marconi was later criticized for supporting Mussolini strongly and racism. Pope Pius XII, during the time between 1939 to 1945, was condemned for not denouncing the Nazis more strongly. Marconi visited the United States 40 times in 20 years. Marconi was really respected in that country, the United States. It was once said that he might become an Italian ambassador in Washington during World War II. This 20-year time frame shows Marconi a real student. This shows the ties between America and England and France. It is a known fact that Mussolini and Adolf Hitler worked together during World War II. Hitler and Mussolini were two men that history books claim were tyrants and evil, and they were in league with the forces of evil. There are things that should not be known, but if one only knew. The Vatican classified intelligence. This information that follows is a summary of files the Vatican generals have hidden from the world. This is basic information from the author's research. One may not give the full length of the facts at this time, as they are not best to be in certain circles. There have been many reports of crafts or unidentified flying sky vehicles along the mountainous jungles of the eastern Andes, from Bolivia to Venezuela. Some of these crafts were made on Earth. Others do not have Earth origin. The Earth-made have steam. The others have some fire enfolding, of luminous brightness, some type of clean fuel coming out of them. They are swift vessels. During World War II, Germany constructed many crafts that were similar to UFOs. The Germans were not working alone. They had visitors, most of them not of Earth. Inside the Earth there are 6 caverns, 4 occupied and 2 unoccupied in 1970 AD. There are subterranean worlds that do exist. Again, this information is classified and not common. There are many different species living within this world, not just on land or sea or sky, but beneath the crust. The world is so diverse, and there are visitors from other planets within the human population, some benevolent, some malevolent. The planetarians, Earthlings, are not ready to know these things. Some do not want to know. Some are searching. Most are still asleep. They will know in time, but will they know too late? The things from space will return, the angels of Genesis, the starters of the human race family tree. In the Bible, the Christians call it the return of the Messiah. It is a return for whom? Those enemies are here. The galactic war is nearing its close. Mankind is not ready. There is great death coming. Not all will live. Do they know? Will they destroy humanity? Maybe so. The earth beings will one day have their wings returned. They will one day mount the sky like both the living and the dead. They will be freed from the condition of sickness and from their cage like weak birds. In the Bible, in Isaiah 26 verse 18, it says, "In the earth, and the inhabitants of the world, showing those in the earth. Inside the earth lives the ancient races." They do have the ancient knowledge which increases intelligence. The machines themselves are corrupted and evil things result. There are many points on the earth that sit directly on major points or vertices of the energy grid. These grids control weather, and they are being manipulated to cause droughts, rain, in unusual places, and earthquakes, as well as other phenomena. Places such as the Great Pyramid of Giza, the structures at Bimini, Gabon in West Africa, which is a natural atomic reactor of high levels of uranium, Easter Island in the Pacific Ocean, and German underground bases in Antarctica, to name a few. All the beings in different dimensions occupy the underground. It is a fact that governments of major countries have built underground tunnels for a variety of purposes. The Chinese, Russians, and all have built subterranean tunnels and bases. Reports in the August 7, 1989 AD edition of the article state that in the case of a nuclear attack, or any attack from outer extraterrestrial attack, special teams equipped with warplanes, military codes, and other essential data would accompany each designated command post around the country. The president of each major country, those deemed important enough to be evacuated, military, banking members, scientific and entertainment heads, would have a hiding spot, a shelter. In the case of a meteoric attack, only officials named in the Joint Emergency Evacuation Plan, JEEP, would be evacuated. There are 50 of these underground post bunkers located in 10 different regions of the country, United States. Each is linked via satellite or ground wave relays. Revelation 6 verse 16 says, "They called to the mountains and the rocks, caverns, hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the one who comes with great glory." Originally, Enki, God, made 14 different types of man from the reddish shale, the original human of the earth color. Just look at the soil. They were called farmers. Heavy labor began after the fall, and not before. That is when humans began to adapt as they were in their original climate. The black people were the first to sweat and perspire once they left Sudan towards Nubia, moving on foot southward towards the equator, the section of the planet from Nubia toward Congo, where the weather grew hotter, and not like the garden which was their home, the Watusi. The area of northern Africa is the location of the fossils of the dinosaurs from the Great Destruction. The Nubians were nomadic wanderers, the first pilgrims. The Watusi are themselves Nubians from the Nile River and were the cattle herders, the original children of the Nephitus, gods. In the time of the slave trade, the 1700s, they could not use the dark Negroes to mix with. When they did, their genes were dominated, meaning they were not natural to the environment, and nature made them a recessive gene. The immune system of Africans is strong, but mixing with other races weakens this strong immune system. Africans mostly maintained the same climate and food for generations. So, Europeans went back and took Nubians from Morocco, who were like the Spanish and French, and mixed them, and they led. There are many numerous diseases among the natives or tribes of America, such as odd rashes, yellow fever, hirsutism, and an unusual and rare type of sinusitis. A Bugtussel child infected with smallpox is pictured in 1973. They brought the Chinese to help rebuild the railroads in Africa, and they mixed in with the Native Americans, and Latinos were the result. The Latinos are blacks and blended so naturally they fit. Then there are Latinos like Jennifer Lopez and Salma Hayek. Some Latino women have bigger breasts compared to Caucasian women and are more shaped than Caucasians since they are not full whites, but mixed. They tried to mix in with the Cubans, yet the Cubans are mostly black and come from Nigeria. They were revolutionaries. Cubans fled to Florida, while others fought with Fidel. They managed to integrate. When the European Spaniards mixed their cursed seed into the women in the colonial island of Jamaica, many of the diseases were passed through the blood. Today there are mixed people and even straight Negroes with heart disease, hypertension, sickle cell anemia, leukemia, and they do not know how it came about. Well, one has the Europeans to thank for that. With correct living, one can control one's fate. One is not a victim to one's genes. Yet one is what one is by nature. The author is skipping a lot, and the reader must put the rest together. For some Caucasians, mixing helped. They maintained a dog with eyes of different colors, some with blue, green, and mixed colors of eyes. They are going to because there are 6 months of darkness and the sun actually hurts their eyes. They are like nocturnal creatures that sleep in the day and roam in the night. So one should not be surprised when people stay out late to party, drink, smoke, and have sex, then die in a car on their way home. At night is when people are most alive. They are night creatures. They have exposed themselves to evil and cannot escape that life. It is their nature to be wild and not the readers. One must sleep at night to renew the body. They must drink at night to feel alive. Like others of them, they have to live their lives inside a bubble because they have no immunity against common diseases of the area, as well as the sun is bad for them. From the mountains they stayed until they moved to colder places. They are actually being told to stay off the beaches. Some darker people can actually see in the dark after 9 minutes of being in it. Caucasians with recessive genes. There are people in Africa called the San who are the Tahiti's of Botswana, and there are the Kalahari Bushmen who are of Zimbabwe. These people look the same. They are the same seed. These people have all the genetic markers that one sees for the human race. They have the nappy hair of Negroes, the slanted eyes of the Asians, the 3 marks in the brow of the Aborigines, and the chin of the Indians. The first race on Earth was Negroids, and the next race is the Aborigines and Dravidians, who had 8. Asians have 7. Celtics/Caucasians have 6, like the Vikings, Celtics, and tribes who have 5. The more number of the spiritual seed, the less the spiritual. Just as everything in nature has a reason to nature itself. They are of darker skins. Most of the African races, those that mixed less, are made of the dominant gene of the pure black or wheat, as they only mixed amongst themselves. They did not go too far animalistic. Like the Kalahari Bushmen and various others as well, they are trying to get away from people, so they moved into the bush and are never seen or heard. They are actually endangered, because most Caucasians are of the recessive gene and are no longer pushing the boundaries of the fashion and Hollywood medium. They and others, like Rihanna, who is mixed, like Beyoncé, Shakira, these they put as the standard of beauty. Yet it is too late. Nordic Adamites are already on their way to extinction sometime after the year 2020. They will not be here. Hollywood celebrities, red hair, Angelina Jolie, green eyes. The media promotes red hair and green eyes to change the culture of fashion. The truth of events in the garden, Cain, the seed of the serpent. Genesis 3 verses 1 to 6 says, in part, "Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden?" In Hebrew, the word serpent is Strong's number 5175, Nachash, Nakash, a snake, from its hiss. From number 5172, Nachash, Nakash, a primitive root, to hiss, i.e. whisper, a magic, spell, generally, to prognosticate, to practice divination, to divine, observe signs, to learn by diligent observation, to practice fortune-telling, such as an omen. The serpent description is the description of a person and not a real reptile. The serpent is a man, but no ordinary man. He is Satan. The serpent is not any snake. It is Satan. Satan, a divine being, is called that and was a creature who could shapeshift. He has other names depending on the culture and language. The word tree is Hebrew number 6086, ETS, Atesh, a tree, from its firmness. From number 6095, Atsa, Atsa, a primitive root, to fasten, in the sense of closing eyes. The giving of firmness to the tree binds and begs the question. Symbolically, trees represent people. People can be good or bad by their fruit or character. All people are as they can see. They also do not look the same in appearance. All have different family trees with different roots or genes. Isaiah 61 verses 1 to 3 says, "The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified." Back to Genesis 3 verses 2 to 3. "And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die." The phrase "fruit of the tree" is Hebrew word number 6529, puri, fruit, in a wide sense. A, fruit, produce, of the ground, or B, fruit, children, progeny, of the womb, or figuratively C, fruit, of actions. The phrase "neither shall ye touch" is Hebrew word number 5060, naga, properly, to touch, i.e. lay the hand upon, for any purpose, often used for a sexual act. Satan said, "Ye shall not surely die," verse 4. This is the first lie in the Bible, and it was Satan the serpent that uttered it. Satan is called the father of lies. Verse 5 says, "For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil." The phrase, "your eye shall be opened," is the second lie in the Bible. Satan is also the author of this one. It is clear from the text that the tree that Satan wants Eve to partake of is to close the eyes, as in being deceived, and losing sight of the only commandment from God at that time. Remember, God said to Adam in Genesis 2 verse 17, "But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die." Verse 6 says, "And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food," one must not be fooled and think it was a tree or literal apple. It was a drug, a poppy plant commonly called opium, which is very addictive and gives a certain euphoria. It was this drug that led to Eve's demise as she drugged herself, and then she was raped, and this changed her appearance. Poppy seed, fruit, opium, apple. Satan himself is a personality. He is a manly figure. The phrase "pleasant to the eyes" is Hebrew word number 2530, charnad, to desire, to covet, to take pleasure in, to delight in, to be desirable, to delight greatly, to desire greatly, desirableness. The word desired is Hebrew word number 8378, taiva, tavia, from number 183, abbreviated, to yearn for, to lust after, used appetites, a longing, by implication, a delight, subjectively, satisfaction, objectively, a charm, a desire, a wish, longings of one's heart, lust, covetousness, in a bad sense, to covet, to wait longingly. The phrase "to make wise" does not make one smart, but can give forbidden knowledge. The word "took" is Hebrew word number 3947, lakak, a primitive root, to take, in the widest variety of applications: to take by the hand, to receive, to marry, to take a wife, to seize, to capture, to obtain, to get, to take of, to select, choose, to take in marriage, to receive, accept. The passage in Genesis makes it appear like Eve took an apple, but the language reveals a sexual act. The author presents the truth for the lay person. Eve had sex and lost her virginity to the serpent, who is Satan, called sin, Nanner, in the Bible. Nanner is the father of Cain, and Nanner is a jealous god. Exodus 20 verse 5. Yet being a son of Nanner and Eve, Cain killed his brother out of jealousy and offered him instead because he was of a wicked race. Exodus 20 verse 5 says, "Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me." This audiobook was uploaded by Hidden Whispers Revelation on YouTube. Please subscribe and like the video to support this work if you enjoyed listening. Now, why would a god give man power and dominion and now be jealous? Of what? The root of Cain's name Canaan is Cana, and Kaji's in Hebrew is Kana, jealous, both from the same root. However, because none can bind partners with God, this jealous attribute is said to be exclusively to God. The fact is, there were more than one even during this brief trial. Satan was the first jealous being in heaven, as he was jealous of his creator and wanted to be not like him but greater than him. So what did he do? Satan created his own people with his own blood. Cain was in the image of God but the likeness of Satan, because Satan is the father of the flesh. Genetic tampering passed the ways of the serpent onto Cain, and the proof of this is found in Romans. There is no apple mentioned in scriptures. It is nowhere to be found. Nowhere does it say Adam and Eve ate an apple. However, most artwork shows Eve enjoying an apple, which makes most believe the apple is poisonous. This is madness. It says Adam also took of this forbidden fruit, but he did not. See, Adam was smarter than Satan because he was made as God's first child. He did not fall to sin, Nanner, yet he chose sin. There is a difference. He knew what Eve had done, and the result of Eve's choice was death. It was true Adam loved Eve, which is why he chose to separate and die instead. Satan is a divine, extraordinary mind. He can confuse even the angels of God. Now what chance does one have? Eve partook of the fruit Satan gave to her. She was tricked by Lucifer to have sex, and then she had sex with Adam and introduced him to the act of sex. This brought pain and death to the human race, all of them. The fruit is a drug, like a plant, opium, that gave a pleasing effect and caused the part of the brain responsible for reasoning to hallucinate. She was attracted by how it looked and felt. Eve was the first mad woman. a junkie. The Creator had a set time for them to procreate, and they went out of cycle, violating the order. So she, Eve, got pregnant and conceived by the serpent and had a son called Cain. Then she conceived a second time, this time from Adam. It is not medically impossible that Eve got pregnant from both Adam and the snake at the same time, and hence she conceived twins called Cain and Abel, as well as daughters. Cain was more rebellious than Abel, led the blood, and Adam knew this, but Cain did not know. Abel was more of a spiritual seed. This is tricky because the Bible says Cain killed Abel, making him seem pure, but he was not. He was rebellious by nature. Thus, being Cain, his genes were twisted. Genesis 3 verses 7 to 13 says, "And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons." Angels make one ashamed of nakedness. Losing one's virginity and innocence will make one ashamed and exposed to many things, like a different frame of mind, for instance. Clothes were given to them to cover their private parts because they were now exposed to the elements, whether outside of the garden. They had to have a covering for their body from the climate. They were now susceptible and were now not protected by their usual surroundings. The lands would have been Cush and Ethiopia by the Gihon rivers mentioned in Genesis 2 verse 11 and Genesis 2 verse 13. Strong's number 2341 is where the rivers flow. Now in Genesis 2 verses 9 to 10 it mentions the garden in Eden, Hebrew Strong's number 5731, which means enclosed, and the river that compassed the whole land of Ethiopia, Strong's number 5437, referring to the land circled, surrounded by rivers. This outside the garden is where the people who lived there were brought to live. He went into the outer garden or field until Adam and Eve were expelled from the garden. Genesis 2 verse 20. Sudan is Sudan or Saudan, which is the land of the two banks, Egypt, Ethiopia. The people there were dark-skinned. All of Africa was there during that time as one continent. Simply eating an apple does not do this to anyone. Fruit does not make one aware or conscious of whether they have clothes on or not. The term eat also means to lay. The term touch, Strong's, is number 5060, which means to touch, to have sexual intercourse. Both terms have sexual connotations. Beguiled, used in this text, is the same as seduced. Furthermore, the Bible says Cain was of that wicked one. He was a son of Satan through the seduction of Eve. The term of is the same lineage. Cain is nowhere listed as a posterity of Adam, which makes the case Cain was not a son of Adam. He was a bastard child, gotten out of wedlock. Adam was a son of God. Luke 3 verse 38. He was a natural seed. Medically or genetically, Adam could not have a son that was unlike him in nature. His wife was unfaithful and gave birth to a rebellious boy called Cain. The boy was so rebellious, he slew his brother. He is a father of all the rebellious ones. He was a bad boy from birth, and it is not his fault. He was the first man. Again, Cain is not mentioned anywhere in the descendants of Adam, which strongly indicates Cain was not his son. The official beginning of the wheat and the tares began with Eve. The tree of knowledge was the means to sexual knowledge they received from Satan. Knowledge means knowing, perceiving, experiencing, learning, tasting. It is also used to mean to know someone sexually, as when Adam knew his wife. The terms eat, know, and touch are interchangeable for sexual relations or pleasure. Genesis 3 verses 14 to 15 says, "And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." Upon thy belly shalt thou go is Hebrew for utter defeat, as in Psalm 72 verse 9 and Isaiah 49 verse 23. The phrase dust shalt thou eat is a term of abasement, an idiom in Psalm 44 verse 25. Now the next verse will also show the first mention of the promise of the Messiah Jesus Christ. From the Christian point of view, the word Jesus is used. However, he goes by other names. This also contains the first prophecy in the Bible. "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." The word enmity is from the Hebrew word number 342, ibah. From number 34, to be hostile, a primitive root, to lurk, to lie in wait, especially for an opposing tribe or party. The phrase between the serpent and the woman. Enmity between a garden snake and a woman does not even make sense. Enmity between the seed of the serpent, Satan, and the offspring of the woman, Eve, Adam, thus of God. Between thy seed and her seed. Seed is Hebrew word number 2233. Zerah, sowing, a sowing, semen virile, offspring, progeny, children. From number 2232, Zara to be made pregnant. The seed, or offspring, of Satan are called Kenite, which means sons of Cain, the murderers. They were part albinos. These Kenite had children as usual, and in time went on to mix with the descendants of Seth, the third child of Adam, a pure seed from God. By this, the ways of the children became distorted as the two tribes mixed and had children, meaning the children from this alliance were weaker than those born of Seth's line and very corrupt though not pure. Seth's line was pure, and they dwelt in the mountains and were mostly herders and singers. They were the children of the Spirit, Romans 8 verse 14. They made a living from the earth and ate vegetables and fruits. Other foods were introduced to them after they ventured out from their own. Seth had a son Enos, Genesis 4 verse 26, the forgetful man. The children of Seth worshiped God the best way they could, and they were very peaceful and humble children. The patriarchs came from this lineage. They were tall, beautiful, and very intelligent. Out of the line of Seth came the great thinkers, scholars, and mathematicians. Their minds were extraordinary. They could memorize entire stories, and they wrote the knowledge of the Creator in their hearts. They knew how to dance as well. When they mixed their daughters and sons with the children of the city dwellers of Nod, they became weaker. They changed their simple diet for richer food and their simple dress for exotic apparel. Now nothing was wrong with jewelry. Jewelry was plenty and worn freely on the neck, ear, and finger of men and women. The daughters of Seth wore jewelry, and it looked good on them. This is not a sin. When they sinned is when they learned the foul practices of the daughters of Cain, fornication and boastings, also called Daesh or Gittel. That is when sin got into their head and heart, and they lost their simplicity and fragrance of spirit. And the fact that they were children of Eve meant the nature was in them to sin, though it remained dormant and under control by their diligent lifestyle, the nature in them. The Kenite are descendants of Cain of the line of Enos. They were made to forget that they are the children of the Jabarians whose insatiable appetite could not be satisfied, and to eat people. This is very horrific to imagine. They only have recollection of religious cathedrals and who built them. Satan was allowed, in the book of Job, limited access to the court of heaven in order to present the case of Job to God. In this passage, chapter 1, the phrase sons of God is used in verse 6 to mean angels of a higher order. Man in the Bible is considered an angel of a lower order in Hebrews 2 verse 7 and Psalms 8 verse 5. Both man and angels share a genetic connection. Demons or angels were considered sons, and not all were good sons that mated with earth in chapter 6, called sons of God, and not the sons of Seth who were sons of Adam, the first son of God. It is therefore untrue that the sons of God were mere humans, sons of the line of Seth, in regard to those that came down in Genesis 6. Normal people do not have children that turn to giants and eat human flesh. The sons of God in the 6th chapter of Genesis are genetically peculiar, different compared to humans. They were inherently evil as well as giants. The fact they were eating human flesh is one reason that caused the destruction of the race before the flood, as they were contaminating the genetic line of God's holy people with their rapes, abuses of animals, and violence. How so? Because their progenitors were satanic beings and not descendants of the holy seed of Seth. The unlawful birth of the giants was the result of genetic manipulation, the effects of which are still felt today in some races of men. The Anunnaki were doing numerous unlawful experiments on the human population. The Anunnaki were not all sentient for good. For example, the Anunnaki were creating many crossbreeds of animals such as the Pegasus or winged horse, the Minotaur, which is a man with the head of a bull, the Centaur, which is the upper body of a man and lower body of a horse, the Tamara, the monkey and a man, the Griffin, a creature with the head and wings of an eagle and the body of a lion. Satan's work in the days of Noah was to upset the physical and spiritual attributes of the human family tree by interbreeding with humans, creating a master race of giants. This interbreeding was an effort to erase the original genetic lineage of the creator Enki. It is the same thing he does through the culture of mental takeover, or what some may call subliminal brainwashing. Infiltration today is more covert and deadly than it was in the days of Noah. Today, Satan uses music, food, fashion, and other distractions to make demons and spirits interact with human beings and the youth. Many of the youth are simply out of their minds. The more diluted the human gene, the harder sin is to resist, the easier for people to be controlled, manipulated, and deceived. Evil wills will reign, and Satan will have power only when men do not follow the laws of his creator. Cain's line was warlike. They were engineers mostly and hunters. They killed for sport and ate what they killed. They are called in Scripture children of the flesh. They were consuming flesh without limit. They were also very immoral and sexually expressive. They had no absolute morals when it came to sexual relations in most of the earlier cultures. They were very wild children, daredevils. They fornicated with the children of Seth, and as well as the daughters of Enos, multiplying themselves in the earth, and became unruly until God decided to wipe them out. The earth mourned for their wickedness. There was no peace in the land. One has to look around very hard to see the same trend occurring today. The Bible is only repeated history written for our learning. Nothing new can happen. Everything occurs cyclically. Everything unfolds like a movie script. In Genesis 5, a full description of the line of Adam through Seth is given. Cain is nowhere in it. Instead, one sees Cainan in verse 12, who lived 70 years, the son of Enos. Cainan the father of Mahalaleel, father of Jared the father of Enoch. All these names are tribes within themselves. At this time of great moral decline, some of Seth's seed separated to keep the ancient way alive. However, Methuselah was fathered by Enoch, from Cainan and others. Noah, fathered by Lamech and Ham, the darkest people on earth, were farmers and craftsmen. They determined not to mix in and corrupt themselves, so they lived in the countryside, not as saints either, for they had their ways and more women than they could care for. Still, they were the best in comparison to those Baal worshippers. Cainan is of Seth, not Cain. The Canaanites are Baal worshippers and children of Russians and Jews of today. Present-day Jews in Israel are ancient Hebrew, or rather Khazars of Russia, to use the name Ashkenazim. The other sect is the Sephardim. True Hebrew and Israelite doctrine got lost in captivity. The Scripture and all Torah is mostly a copy from memory. During the translation of the King James Bible in England in 1611, the error was to cover the two predominant seeds on earth. One created by God were vegetarians. The other tribe were eaters and sacrificed blood. The distinction between the two tribes became confused by religion. Religion is his story, from a man put on a cross for the world to see. Separation for the posterity of Lamech, Enoch, Methuselah, and Noah was not very easy, as they had to prove they could work the earth. It became a curse. They chose the harder way over the city way. Most of the sons and daughters moved away from the country and retired to the city. Some listened to their father's wisdom and stayed in the way of safety. Others could not endure it and moved to the city. This long life of the patriarchs was evident in some of the longest lifespans of the patriarchs of the Bible, whose lifespans drastically decreased once expelled from the Garden of Paradise. The oldest man in the Bible was named Methuselah, who lived to be 969 years of age. Genesis 5, verse 27. He did not want to die, yet the woes of the earth were much, and so he died. He was the son of Enoch, who walked with God and was not, because he went with God, and while in the heavens he was given something to drink, elixir. Genesis 5, verses 23 to 24. He returned to earth and was able to share it with his son Methuselah. Methuselah was drinking gold, which was a part of the water as a mineral that was found to prolong life, and that is a secret he kept as to why he lived so long. He also was pure vegetarian and would practice a form of karate, which made him extremely fit. Gold is the most recognized metal of all metals and is mentioned throughout the scripture in the making of jewelry. Genesis 24, verse 53. The temple decoration, 1 Kings 4, verse 19. Monetary usages, 2 Kings 18, verse 14. And as a reward for the obedient in paradise, Revelation 14, verse 14. Women, Why would God not want them to wear jewelry? Gold was a gift to rulers. It also had a symbolic meaning. It is a sign of royalty in many cultures like Egypt. It was hammered into thin sheets to decorate the burial masks for the dead. Many Christians and Orthodox Jews claim the wearing of gold is sinful. This is not true. Christians give gold rings in marriage, and the Jews or Hebrews give dowries of gold, and so do Muslims. Do not be deceived by men who write their own laws to suit themselves. Gold jewelry has been used throughout the ages. Proof of this is found in the Torah when the servant of Abraham took golden jewelry to Rebekah when she consented to be the wife of Isaac. Genesis 24 verse 22, Exodus 35 verse 22. Enoch's lifespan at 365 is a record of his death and departure. Lamech, a son of Methuselah and father of Noah, lived to be 777 years. Noah lived to be 950 and was considered perfect in his generation. Without perfect genes, one will not make the appearance or the second coming. Perfect genes can only happen if one adheres to a perfect diet and lives close to the way of truth. Through a perfect life, one can correct evil habits and inherent tendencies. After this, the lifespan of man was 120 years, Genesis 6 verse 3. The secret of longevity vanished from the earth for a time. So gradually the lifespan of man decreased up until today, where it is a breaking record for one to live to 112 years old, which is the record for the oldest woman in Japan and 116 for the oldest man. The introduction of flesh foods shortened the life of man, as God did this to contain their wickedness from perpetuity. As a result of Enoch's purity, they, of Seth, kept the intellectual culture and increased in power, wisdom, and learning. Encouraged by the piety of Enoch, others were soon persuaded to walk his way. Enoch never died and was the greatest in all his generation. It is said he studied the works of God more fervently than the angels. Not only was he found righteous, he terrified the seed of Cain with his sharp utterances, and there were none found to confound Enoch, who had the wisdom of angels. Satan knew that the Messiah Christ would come through the seed of Eve. This was the first attempt by Satan to destroy the seed that Yeshua was to come through. So he killed Abel, who was good. Abel was so good he had no tendency to evil. He could not even see that his brother wanted to kill him. Abel was wholly good and denied the evil that was in him. Seth was balanced and also knew evil. Seth could interchange on either side when necessary, but not very easily. Seth knew how to fight, but he would rather be a lover. Many readers are hearing this for the first time. Most of the churches will not tell these truths, even though it is in the Bible. Murder as well as sexual relations is the reason for the fall of man, as sex itself is not sin, but the wrong use of it is corrupting by genetics. Genetic played a key part in God's creative plan, as the Creator did not want his people mixing with those of another origin. The devil has even tarnished the name of the Master's wife, Mary Magdalene, with slander and propaganda. This is the lowest form of hate and disrespect. For example, there is another Mary in Anna and the birth of Jesus. Joseph was actually a widower. His wife Halsa died, leaving him James, Jose also known as Barnabas, Simon, and Judas, and sisters who did not believe. Matthew 13 verses 55 to 56. Joseph was a carpenter who lived by the law. Mary's mother of Joseph's situation would send her to get him. Now the situation with Mary being with child, the Levites went with the Immaculate Mary and told Joseph to go to Egypt just in time. The child Jesus was 13 at his bar mitzvah. While Jesus was away, he was betrothed as a child to Mary Magdalene, a pure Ethiopian. Her name was Sarah, and so she became known as Mary, and they went to a school in the Pyramid Peach School. Mary of Magdalene had this holy school of thought. It must be explained in order to reach out to them and guide them forward. The Bible is the wife of Jesus, Mary of Magdalene in Ethiopia, and not a prostitute, and her daughter by her name Sarah. This Jesus, Yahshua, died in 114 AD at the age of 120 in Maghat, Egypt, of a person killed by another person. When they die, all the lives they have taken will be waiting for them to repay the lives they took from these. A question is asked: if one kills someone, is self-defense a reason for murder? Answer: one must do everything in one's power to prevent taking a life. Yet, killings in the news have already drawn a line between them and civilians. The news is filled with the killing of blacks in churches, wars, and police violence in places like Camden, New Jersey. Third world countries like Africa are also full of police killing civilians, police killing police, drought, weather, and climate issues. Third world countries are to be greatly affected, and they will be those who will be tried. The rapper Jam, the famous ones, are prophets as their wordplay is a gift. Ebola, another wave in Liberia, was a time for people to get out of the mines or what is sick. Witness the enterovirus, where all the young children in Colorado were affected. Nature is on a mission to cleanse itself of the plague of people on her back. It will only get worse. China has a problem with the United States and needs to step in to assist. The next thing to bear is Japan has islands and tsunamis. The Project National used whom they could and is still used. The Jaguar still remains in America, and they did them in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. From the year up until now, it is more than it has been. The climate change and the increase in the number of millions of people worldwide is the fix to the beat. The cycle in 1970, they are in the final years. Icebergs are melting, and the west of the world is going to be affected. As a result, the sea levels are rising, and in small Jamaica or Cayman, the water will reclaim its boundaries inland. The auroras are occurring more due to the earth shifting. Volcanoes and fungal disasters are occurring more frequently as a part of the times they are in. The galaxies are more real than they realize. They are in from Sirius in the Milky Way. The chariots of the Lord will return. Make no mistake. Every eye shall see. Revelation 1 verse 7. It is all about genetics, and genetic nature is expressed in human nature. One is what one is by nature. People who are considered unusual are not what is prescribed as crazy. In fact, they are at war inside with their family. One had great uncles who were drinkers, so one finds oneself over drinking, or one's mother is an overeater, so one has the tendency to overeat. One's mother was the neighborhood, so one adapts the same life as her daughter. The way one processes one's desires, colors, food, and even how one's taste buds work is based upon one's genes, environment, and even diet. This is the truth. If they do not convert, the children can be visited up to the fourth generations to answer for the sins of their parents. God wanted a pure, clean people, so he had to preserve the seed of Noah from mixing with the seed of Cain. This is basic. One can be blind to what is going on in the world today between the seed line and the rest of the human race are mingled together. When Adam knew his wife Eve, who was pregnant by Samad, Satan, and she conceived and bare Cain, and he was like the heavenly beings and the earthly beings, and she said, I have gotten a man from the angel or the Lord. Let there be no doubt in the reader's mind as to the identity of Satan. They tried to reform him in Orion, heaven. Lucifer was born to two parents. He is a genius. He was very disagreeable, so they took him in to see if they could reform the evil mind of him. It did not work. The issues around the Bible. As the reader knows, there has been massive effort throughout history to thwart the word of the Creator by way of falsifying Scripture. The Holy Scriptures seem to be vulnerable to evil men's tactics, just as are his people. Biblical tampering is nothing new. Tyndall, commonly called William Shakespeare, pen name, was guilty of intentionally mistranslating the Bible on the commission of King James, who produced a Bible with his own private agenda. King James was a private man. Tyndall's mistranslations is one thing that eventually led to his death at the stake. They claim that the two words under two different Strong's numbers mean the anointed. Christ actually comes from Krishna, as Christianity came from Hinduism, and Hindi is a blood religion, a shadow of religion just like Christianity. The customs and rituals remain intact. Nothing has changed. The beast is still the same, and he wants to take it all. That is true because the Hindus are Cainites, and Cain is Krishna. Cain's children are also the fair-skinned Hindus, and they are famous in Bombay, Mumbai of the Bollywood industry. All the children of Cain are a united front in their way of life. These Bibles of today were translated from many languages over time, if one only knew. First from Hebrew to Ugaritic to Assyrian to Chaldean to Aramaic to Greek to Latin to your Torah or Jewish. Then there were the English versions that went to German and then English. Then there were the ones by William Tyndale and John Wycliffe to Latin and then English, and the ones by Martin Luther in German. Many of these reformers suffered horribly and died by fire. John Huss and Jerome of Prague were tricked and killed, and other reformers were terminated by fire on the charge of heresy, otherwise known as blasphemy, and they were Protestants trying to leave the filth of Catholicism. The youth should try to know these things. The freedoms enjoyed today were paid for by someone who died. All professors and scholars of world history know the ancient pagan writings from which the Bible story comes. All of the essential ancient cuneiform tablets can be found in select libraries across the planet. The Jews are the majority in Hollywood. Hollywood is the occultic organization run by Jews, like Walt Disney, the music industries like Sony, Def Jam. The first Bible printed in German by Martin Luther, a monk, was then translated to other languages. They spread all over Europe who had no diseases. The blood was pure, yet with so many Jews with Nordic blood and blue eyes, their children were mixed. There are two main bloodlines, the Jews and the Khazars. In Christianity, the three Jesuses were Simon Bar Jesus, Acts 13 verse 6, who was a magician, a charlatan, and not religious. He was killed by Rome. The other was of Mark Antony, who ruled ancient Rome and was allowed by him. He was a ghost theme, a foreigner. He was a teacher. This Jesus also was called Jesus Justus, who went off to become known as Saint Isa, and in Kashmir, India, they are there. The Catholics worshipped the Sphinx until they realized the Sphinx was a mutation, which scientists are confused about, as they realized the current head is disproportionate to the rest of the body and was replaced. Anpu, Anubis, the god of Sirius, a system from where the women came. The Jesuits, created by Ignatius or Loyola, 1534, came from Zeus, a Greek myth god. The Council of Nicaea appointed with politics, who substituted the new Christianity out of Rome. Paul, the saint of Roman morality, deceived the first Christians and changed the true testimony of the followers of the man from heaven. Paul was a master deceiver, speaking with a forked tongue, Satan in the flesh. The origin of the New Testament is suspect when 72 books of the Bible were reduced to 66, which is the mark of the beast, England from Rome, 666. The Jesuit obedience to the Pope is the central key. They have the vow of life being under the papacy. What way than a Bible with 66 books? The word synopsis summarizes 3 summaries. They have documents. In the 1600s, the new reformers or protesters came and were many groups: Baptists, Methodists, Mormons, Pentecostals, Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses. So many of these migrated to America and set up colonies, where they are today. The word lives in the hearts and minds of his people and in nature even. Even if they corrupt a book, God has ways of reaching his children. One is saved by grace, not by a book. The reasons they had to return to a better people and their potential remain. The Jews were in France and sent the settlers to be located. The plan to take New York from Yorkshire, England. They met the Algonquian, symbolic of the garden in the Bible. This of course ties back to the Yorks, white rose and red rose. The red blood of the Puritans, Protestants, and the blue blood of the crown. One family were hemophiliacs, so they did not want to mix with the darker blood of the other tribe. Thus one has the order otherwise known as the United States. America was a beautiful land for immigrants. However, racism is in the country. The laws of God is symbolic of God-given and Dagon, and became, in God we trust, on the walls of the courtroom. Yet church and state are supposed to be separate. The God there is the government and over them. The Levites were the priests who kept the laws of the Bible. They have the law and they follow it. Yet they tell one not to swear. Thus one swears in the courtroom by placing one's hand on the Bible. Yet one should not swear and should not kill. Yet in the Bible, when they have one swear, it says, "Thou shalt not kill." One is presented with 2 seeds. The struggle between these 2 bloodlines continues. Cain's religion is scientific. Cain in the Bible is hard and needs to be helped to do the right thing. Sin is waiting at the door. He did not kill Abel. The rulers of 6 kings, tribes of the Celts, came conquering lands as they go. The world, Brits, and French came as well, eventually. The Native Americans sided with the French. The Portuguese brought slaves to America, and they were rearranging people from other lands as well as those from Africa, but as they are trying to do today. The European Spaniards tried to convert the Maya to Christianity and taught them about heaven and hell. Most of the slaves who came to the islands have culture and their own spiritual traditions. The Christian tradition is a Celtic practice. It is true as most originate. The original Bible was in Qumran. The book of the Torah came from the word and origin Torah, teraphim, in Genesis 6. The Jews themselves are not a people as many believe, but a religion. This is why the women are seen weeping for Tammuz, who was appointed Yahweh for the Anakites. The issues around the Bible are that it lost its cultural meaning. Without a culture, one cannot have a functioning people. Religion does not offer any people any type of cultural formality and race supremacy. Religions are race traditions, rules from the priest or Levite. Religion is another form of racism, sectarianism, sexism, socialism, barbarism, tribalism. Nothing is wrong with that. All thriving people on earth practice the first law of nature, self-preservation of self and kind. What is the big deal about Hillary running for president? What is the big deal about a woman being a pastor? The Bible states women should not usurp authority or teach over men. Yet females are the first teachers, and the ignorant devils know it. As long as the Bible says that a woman cannot pastor a church, they go after the woman when they need to renew their seed or they will die out, which is inevitable anyway. So when they needed to mix their seed, they went after the Native American women like Sacagawea and Pocahontas, who went back to England and married an Englishman, changed her name, and died there. All these Puritans brought to America was their diseases. They were not pure like the natives. This suppression and killing of women in cultures is from those in authority and stems from the word authority. O is the symbol for Thor. Y is the Nordic son of Odin. Look at the word God. G, Gad, Canaanite god. O, Odin, Norse god. D, Dagon, fish Dragonians. In Hebrew, the word for God is Gomer. Oz, Dabber. Logos is also the same by the word. God is a he and not a she. Being given your own culture will save you. Knowledge gives one true power to guide them. There is no woman in the European God equation. The 66 books are all dominated by men. Men were racist to their own women, and they kept them from working, driving, voting, learning, even speaking and marrying who they loved. Yet in America, if one touched or even looked at one of their daughters, they will want to hang one without remorse. Racism is still a problem. They will fall if they deny their own mother, the blue-eyed, blonde-haired Caucasians. There is no respect for women in their King James, and the rest were all faggots, homosexuals. This audiobook was uploaded by Hidden Whispers Revelation on YouTube. Please subscribe and like the video to support this work if you enjoyed listening. Where is the race of Cain today? Now, if Cain is Satan's seed, son, and Satan is the father of his race, where are they? If the reader has picked up anything from what has been presented, they will see that Cain's children are the majority of those in the first world countries. Cain's children control the earth. In fact, there are many. 1 John 3 verse 12 states, "Not as Cain, who was of that wicked one, and slew his brother." Who is killing whom in the world? Here the word "of" in Greek is number 1537 in the Strong's Concordance. When used implying a relation, it means a son of or offspring. Compare this with other translations. The New Testament in modern English says, "We are not to be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one." Cain, a son of Satan, is the god of this world. Remember, he is the father of the children of disobedience, says 2 Corinthians 4 verse 4. The Living Bible states, "We are not to be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one." 1 John 3 verse 12. The Wycliffe Bible Commentary of 1473 says, "He, Cain, is said to have belonged to the family of the wicked one." These families are the ones in control of the banking sectors, finance, money, and Wall Street. Jude 1 verse 11. Every 7 years, meeting in 2008, prior to the economic crash, they convened. In John 8 verse 44, Jesus, speaking to the Pharisees, proclaimed, "Ye are of your father the devil." The term means generation or offspring. They were of the physical seed, genes, of their father the devil. Before Adam could bless his wife, Eve, with a child, she ventured out and gained a knowledge of evil. She was soon impregnated with the seed of the serpent, Lucifer, and bore a child called Cain. Adam disliked what his woman had done, and from this seed is the satanic origin. Esau, or the Red People, are the Celtics of England, predominantly the Anglos and Saxons. England is an Anglo-Saxon colony, island. The children of the Caucasians are the direct seed of Cain. Is this not obvious? They shed the most blood and caused the most problems. It is the bloodline of Cain. Europeans like Russians, Germans, or the Celtics, the Vikings, and the Jews who work together for the control of vast wealth around the world that is bringing the Antichrist together through various movements. Protestant groups like Seventh-day Adventists believe that a Sunday law will be passed by Congress in America and will be enforced in America. The author has no query with this. However, it is not certain that it is to be a global law. In Genesis 5 verse 1, nowhere is Cain mentioned in the lineage of Adam because he was not Adam's child, but of another seed, a seed that is very destructive, what is called in the Bible a tare. Cain slew his brother Abel, just as the Roman Catholic Church will slay the saints at the end of time. It is told in 1 John 3 verse 12, not as Cain, who was of that wicked one, and slew his brother. Also, in John 8 verse 44 it is read, Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it. The Pope is the father of the Roman Catholic Church. He represents the devil and his seed. The seed is all the fallen churches of Babylon. The seed of the serpent is a term that includes or alludes to all those who are of the race of sin. Manner, who is Satan, whether direct or indirect descendants of the fallen angels of Genesis 6, who have interbred with the daughters of Enos, man, for the past years. These children have more inclination to rebellion than they are aware. By their foods, listening to their music, and accepting their teachings, mortal man falls a victim to their possession and influence. There are many within the earth, like mountains, Australia, Egypt, Alaska, and others, where fallen angels use abducted people and hybrid genetic experiments on human beings and animals. This is not a theory, it is a fact. There are gaps in tunnels, like airport tunnels. The Bermuda Triangle is where they say planes go. They take people, pull planes from the sky, and even use them for their own time. These are the fallen angelic spirits now on the earth in the form of men. They work through the governments and religious groups like Islam to perpetrate terror and violence. The parable of the tares in Matthew alludes to these two bloodlines and the subraces produced from them, and how the world is wicked because of the mixing in of the holy children of Jehovah God and the children of rebellion fathered by Satan. His blood is in them, hence their nature. They are what they are by nature, and the reader is what they are by nature. They will not reform. One cannot reform the devil. The prophets have all tried and died. There was an apology given by the United States to Iraqi civilians when bombs were dropped on them. They still have their nose in other people's affairs. They are still in Africa terrorizing the local people and raping the resources of the earth. They have not changed in 600 years, and they grow bolder with each day. The fact that the creator of heaven and earth is so silent should arouse Christians to their senses. A calm always comes before a storm. The war with Saddam Hussein that took place was a lie. He was not a threat to America. Saddam Hussein was a threat to his own tribes, but he was no threat to the West. It was the same thing with Gaddafi. Saddam Hussein was no threat to the culture. He was trying to rebuild Timbuktu and restore Babylon, and was into Sumerian studies. America wanted to own that land, just like the islands of the Caribbean. There were several declarations made in this parable that the churches often ignore. A. Jesus fathered the good seed through his son, a man in his likeness, Seth. B. The good seed, the Adamites through Seth, are the genetic sons of the Elohim. C. The tares, Cain's seed, are the genetic sons of Satan. D. The enemy that fathered, planted, the tares is the same serpent of Genesis 3 verse 15. E. The sons of Adam, wheat, will eventually inherit the kingdom after the tares, sons of Cain, are destroyed at the end of the world, the end of 6,000 years. They are being removed as they speak. The seed of Cain knows they have a short time, as time is against them. Again, as stated in verse 38, the field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. This is not only a physical lineage, but a spiritual one as well. Yeshua, Jesus, told the Pharisees of his day, Ye are not my sheep, in John 10 verse 26. In Josephus, Wars 2:8:2, the Jewish historian makes it quite clear the Pharisees and Sadducees were not Israelites by birth, for there are three philosophical sects among the Jews. The followers of the first of whom are the Pharisees, of the second, the Sadducees, and the third sect, which pretends to a more severe discipline, are called Essenes. These last are Jews, Judah, by birth, and seem to have a greater affection for one another than the other sects have. The real Jews of Jesus' day absorbed those with contaminated hybrid blood, and therefore they could claim both Abraham and Isaac as their fathers. The woman of Samaria, as in the parable, was a mixed-blooded Jew who partook in a polygamist culture, John 4. Many of the priests of Israel were born by unholy marriages, and the seed of God was scattered throughout Phoenicia and became suppressed by Roman brutality through Jewish religious authority. The work of Jesus was to find these lost sheep and educate them. The children of Satan are literally living side by side to this day among the children of Jesus, the true people. They masquerade as members of the bride of Jesus in all the churches and races that are mostly dark-skinned. The children of Cain were warned not to touch the seed of Seth, and they did not listen. Because of mixing the blood of God's holy line, they are at their end, and they know it. The armies of heaven are coming from the other side of the asteroid to clean this earth on many levels, and they will escape. Satan is the destroyer. Some of the serpent's seed will be eaten by the birds of heaven, Revelation 19 verse 18. These are not birds, but creatures created for one purpose, to eat the flesh of men. Most of the people they are eating are creatures humans anyway. Some find it laughable that human beings will be eaten. They think they are high and mighty. Well, just like one kills and eats a chicken, goat, or cow without remorse, there are beings out there that can eat them. Of the world and all of men, the wheat and the tares will continually grow and live together until the end of the age, when the angels will separate them. This is the end of the 6,000 years they are in. The author hopes the reader follows. The word night is a German word connect, and the word night is synonymous with the absence of light or darkness. Yet sunlight is always present. So the word night really means shadow hour, for there is a time when sunlight is not present except at night. For that darkness one sees is a shadow. The original Muslims, not the ones existing today, were the true holders of the original doctrines and teachings of Yahshua, called Jesus Christ. Simply, they shared the language and syllables of that language. It was when the Catholic order started that history was stolen, manipulated, twisted, and literary corruptions entered the records. This is important to know. Some of the Knight Templars sided with the ancient winners and learned some of the secrets about Jesus recorded in tablets, and had to go through tests of loyalty or initiations before many of the secrets could be handed over from them. King James was a king and not a reverend or translator. King James did not profess to be a Baptist. He was an Anglican. Anglicans were a branch of Roman Catholics who broke off. King James used the Roman Catholic Bible from Latin. So when he decided to do his version of the Bible, he decided to leave some books out and include only 66, for many were taken out. The Apocrypha was not included in newer translations as it was in the 1611 version. This is a game to these people, but they do not know what they do. All this history is part of the pieces of the puzzle of a beast that is destroying the whole world, a system of the beast that rules the world, or at least that is what they think. This operates through Freemasonry. The Knights Templar influenced out of Spain where they found the Moors, and the Moors taught them, and they became the Catholic order. Britain is from Hebrew Brit or Ber-eth and means covenant. So what this means is that the devil's empire is ruled by a queen who sits on a throne. The queen sits on 3 steps. This throne rules all the kings of the world. Dressed in a scarlet robe with all kinds of jewels on it, she is riding a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, which are kings and nations. Symbolically, this woman is the mother of harlotry, and she moved through France to America, an orient of European Freemasons, Scottish Rites, who put her symbol in New York of America, Old Yorkshire in 1717, where they organized their lodges to worship Lucifer and his hosts, the fallen spirits, which now have the whole world in their grasp. The French Revolution is what sparked the reconstruction of their constitution. All this took place in Great Britain. All this evil is what made their forefathers run away from England to colonize the West, called America. Many of them were protesting, so they were called Protestants and fled away from their home country England in hope of a new life of freedom. What about the biblical flood? The flood of Genesis 7 destroyed the majority of the seed of Cain. This restarted the population again with Ham and his wife and their children and their wives. They were given orders to replenish, repopulate once more. Polygamy was practiced much in those days before the flood, sanctioned by certain cultures, even today. Polygamy itself is innocent and only became a curse after the high standard of Seth became perverted when their sons primarily intermingled with the daughters of Cain, the light-skinned race. For example, Abraham had a wife named Sarah who was a Dravidian or Indian, a dark-skinned woman and very beautiful, and they shared the same father with different mothers. He had other wives and other children, like Keturah in Genesis 25 verse 1, who was sent away, and other concubines who had children in Genesis 25 verse 4. Scripture says there were giants in the land before the flood and even after. Fallen angels having sexual relations with human women after the flood. Where does the reader think Goliath came from? This proves that the whole earth was not destroyed, as other seeds of men lived in other lands that remained intact of the flood. The only thing the Lord put between his people and the people of Satan, or between the woman's seed and Satan's descendants, posterity, and children, is racism, hatred, and enmity. It says, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." It cannot be clearer that Satan has his own children, his own offspring, who do his works on the earth today. And that is why the adversary hates for the reader to know this truth, that he coexists among the generations and nations because they rule and control the very world, as much as is permitted, that is called home, to bring about Satan as the father of the Antichrist. This world is not the reader's home. If the reader knew that over 50,000 pastors and ministers from every denomination are direct initiated members of Masonry, would they support the ministry? In fact, many of them do. All of the megachurches have pastors and ministers who are direct Freemasons. The TBN, Trinity Network, is Mason-controlled. Almost all of the Southern Pentecostal and other preachers and pastors are Masons. Most of Protestantism are rebels, wolves in sheep's clothing. All Masons worship Lucifer as their father. And those who worship Lucifer as their father, the devil, belong to Cain. Am I my brother's keeper? How can people support them if they know they are wolves? Do they not know that the churches will be the main supporters of the world order under the world wars and the beast mark economy? Can one know this truth and continue to fund them, having a mind for Satan's seed to dominate the earth? Satan's seed dominate the earth. Who is running the White House? Looking at America today, the Edomite Jews and the sons of Cain through Canaan are running the show. The fallen angels are directly in league with Cain and have communicated with the sons of Cain, political leaders. They are the highest-ranking council of Lucifer's generals and armies that rule over the earth under politics, UN, military, NATO, and religion, Roman Catholic. The Lord Enki forbade ancient Israel from intermarrying with the bad seed. They even went to many wars to completely destroy all men, women, and children of the bad seed, as Enki directed them to. Today, the bad seed is so intermingled with the good seed that one cannot tell who is who. One cannot tell a true Christian from a pretender. Thus, the parable of the wheat and the tares. Today, as in the past, the bad seed dominates religions, politics, economics, entertainment, and society in general. The good seed is surrounded, infiltrated, dominated, suppressed, and even led astray by the bad seed posing as Christians, Jews, Muslims, Adventists, Catholics, Baptists, Mormons, Anglicans, and many more. The good and bad are mixed, leading the sons and daughters of Israel like sheep to the slaughter by the very ones they call their own. Is the reader getting truth in their church or self-help feel-good psychology? Many people raise their hands and declare themselves as children of God, growing in ignorance of the real truths of the Scriptures. Does the reader hear Satan's hiss in the churches today? Do they realize the danger their world is in? Do they hear God calling them to come out from them? To seek Him personally and investigate these things for their own soul's salvation? Then they must not turn their heart from His call. The very reason they feel strange in their church or unwelcome is because of the spiritual pollution and insincerity that many tolerate for the sake of fellowship, social well-being, finance, and other motives. People go to church for different reasons. What reason does the reader go to church? From this book, the reader can quickly develop a picture of the world. The evil seed dominates the banking, economics, religion, military, entertainment, and music, the minds of many. How can those children be in these mentioned categories? Look at the music of today. Enough said. Look at the fashions and state of the generation. They are totally corrupted by the wicked seed. Isn't it interesting how the old rappers like KRS-One, Public Enemy, etc. were pushed out? They did not pay them. They paid Ice-T, Ice Cube, Eminem, and Dr. Dre, those that did not bring a message to their people. KRS-One fought for us. Biggie and Tupac were the last to fight for the darker ones. Most of the DJs and artists of today are promoting the reptilian agenda. If they refuse, they are character assassinated. 50 Cent, the get-rich-or-die trying rapper, was recently in the news over charges and had to file for bankruptcy. He often brags about how much money he has. Why did he have to file? They are all slaves of fame, and they promote a false life to the youth. They must comply to keep their wealth. Many of them are actually sorry and cannot exit their contracts and have to count their time carefully. They have lost their soul. For what? Money. The Anunnaki gods had among them good and bad children. The angels were free moral beings, as they could be good or bad as they willed. The wicked fallen angels present through children of Cain have also corrupted the children of Seth in their appearance, making them paint their face and dance in music videos of some of these rappers, as they are very beautiful women like Naomi Campbell and Megan. When the Anunnaki do arrive on Earth, according to prophecy of return, it will be a time of great tribulation for most of the world, but a short one, as almost 2/3 of the population of Earth will be wiped out or destroyed by Lord Enki and his host. Romans 9 verse 28. The demonic armies described in Joel 2 and Revelation 9 are to bring the famine, plagues, wars, diseases, and forced submission that is prophesied as the mark of the beast that will nearly make humanity extinct. It is the plan of Satan to reduce the world to 500 million people. As the issuing of homosexual law in 2015, President Obama announced on June 25, 2015, ruling gay marriage as a victory for America is a step. The next thing is food shortages. Diseases will wipe out mankind in a kind of slow death. Jesus promised to save his elect, Matthew 24 verse 22, and to make the days short, for the sake of his waiting people. Most of the animals, like birds, bears, tigers, that are used to seeing are no longer here. Where are they? Well, they are dying off. Most of them are affected by the climate and the drought caused by the heat. Most of the population is attacked by the sun. For instance, India recently saw thousands die from heat waves. Most of the food nowadays is poisonous and of no substance, and hospitals are filled with sick people. Can humanity continue like this? In Noah's day, Noah's family were the only ones found pure enough to start the population again. Over time, the giants were shortened to live to 120 years, as most of the people were reduced and given a shorter lifespan, although there were those who defied the odds and lived past that age. Short lives were for the reader's own good. The deception became more subtle between the two seeds and their people. They interbred still, but the nature was tamed, and now there is no way to tell who is who. Over thousands of years, the contamination of mixed DNA has covered mankind and their lineage. Man has reduced in strength, both mental and physical. He is not inclined to his original diet. He smokes, drinks, and ushers himself to an early grave. The seed of the serpent can be seen through their technology that they use to hunt or make war with. China has the most tech power, as well as America and Russia. These are the countries to watch. They also eat the most meat and have the most cities. Humans were designed to eat according to how they were built genetically. To violate this law is to violate the laws of nature. There are evident issues with homosexual sex. For instance, the Caucasians have a low birth rate, yet the rate of homosexuality is high. If all of them married the same sex, that would end their line. Now, with this being granted, it also closes doors like adoption and IVF. So they have one of their family members being for gay rights, while others try to save the extinction of their race. The Apocalypse is actually a book for Jesus signified by an angel of Jesus and given to John while he was imprisoned on the Isle of Patmos in the Aegean Sea. There were many other books of the Bible. However, many were epistles or letters written by people that are not actual prophecy and business, being in the Revelation. The first year of this last cycle is 2014, the beginning of sorrows. This is the end. Notes on prophecy. The author has tried to put much content in one book. The information being shared is not something the author came up with. This information is in the Bible, for the most part. and the author believes that the Spirit of Truth has revealed these facts of prophecy to him and others. It is the author's hope that the reader found the book informative, helpful, and relevant. Many of the issues they deal with center around two genes in the Bible. There is Abraham, who was a Persian/Chaldean son of Terah or Teru, which, as can be seen from the name, is where the word Torah came from. Terah in Genesis 3 verse 15, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." As Jacob grew older, he conspired with his mother to steal his brother Esau's birthright. This same seed wrestled with God, and changed his name, and for a blessing, and was renamed Israel. El means he was of Enlil-Baal. It is the war between the two seeds. However, both sides were concerned with obtaining a pure seed. On the side of Isaac through Jacob, there are the 12 sons of Israel and one pure seed. During the time there was a conflict, they were sent to be in Jerusalem with David or his son Adonijah. So they moved south up the city of Judea. Now this went into bondage, and it was in Egypt for 430 years from the hairy seed, and broke up into two groups. Judah is mentioned. Now in the genealogy of Luke 3 verse 38, it speaks about Adam being a son of God, and in Genesis 6 verses 5 to 6 it speaks about the sons of God coming down to earth. Now Abraham had another seed, a son named Ishmael by Hagar, the Egyptian, a pure seed. From Ishmael's 12 sons, the seed of Kedar was born. So there was Moses who was trying to save one seed, yet he was not allowed in the promised land. And then Muhammad, who was also looking for a particular tribe for a pure seed that descends through Ishmael, through his son Kedar. They are the Limba or Buba tribe, who have customs today, and the males in the Y or Yap chromosome found in males of this tribe, yet the maternal DNA of the women does not. The bondage of this seed was for 400 years, as mentioned in Genesis 15 verse 13. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. The tribal name changed to like Moors and Shabazz and mixed in the indigenous people here. Then the Japanese migrated over and settled in South America. The Chinese came and then mixed people in and became known as the Toltecs, Maya, and Aztecs. They made large structures showing acceptance of the Negroes and called them Olmecs. Then from sailing east to west on the African current, Mansa Musa also mixed in with the indigenous people to America. All mixed in all along. 55,000 years ago they came here. The desert of the Sahara wasn't a desert then, and it was an area of vegetation. The Greeks called it two lands to Sudan or Atlantis, meaning north and south. Another called America the land of the rising sun from what was heard at night. The bondage of the two seeds started up in America, as America is the last kingdom on earth. Daniel's prophecies given from heaven by Daniel talks about four main kingdoms. A. The Babylonian Empire. B. The Medo-Persian Empire. C. The Greek Empire, where Alexander's armies conquered all Asia. D. The Roman Empire, which is conquering America, the islands, and Europe, and rules through her and her entities. The last kingdom is the end of the moon cycle that began in 1970 AD. The end years on Earth will repopulate, and the new surviving people will continue. The Kingdom of America began in the 1600s, officially in 1776, July 4th, and ushered in what was said to be signed in Congress by George Washington. That is where they got the name Washington District of Columbia. It was not signed, it's a fraud. Religious, economic, and political freedom, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness was promised to the people and migrants of Africa, and that promise is yet to be done. It is all about freedom of worship. It is the Garden of Eden all over again. This is a direct cause of the papacy, but for other political and economic reasons and religious influence. It was the Spaniards of Spain that brought the slaves to America, as well as others in the Caribbean lands. Jamaica was used as slaves to the New World. The Knight's Cross is on Jamaica's flag. Jamaica is independent. It's a fraud. In the case of Jamaica, the slave trade was a race war as well as a religious war in which Europeans and white Christians plotted that would destroy every black civilization in the New World with their theology. The Pope authorized it in 1491. Christopher Columbus crusade on commission of the Queen against the blacks to exploit Her Majesty's fortunes and treasures. This so-called independent Jamaica started out bankrupt. The 1962 Independence Declaration is a scam. Many Jamaicans are unaware of this today. Emancipation did not relinquish the Queen's claim of domination on the island. It did not return the land ownership and resources to its people. It did not recompense the natives for the wealth stolen in slavery. It did not remove the Queen as head of state. It did not cancel the Governor-General as Lord of the land. And most importantly, it did not resolve the debts accrued to the people. This is what the Independence Declaration did. The government of Jamaica and the Bank of Jamaica began taking large sums from predatory multinational lenders like IMF, World Bank, and Inter-American Development Bank. These loans carried high interest premiums and harsh conditions called structural adjustment policies, which forced a sell-off of major assets held by the state: bauxite, tourism, land, agriculture, airports, and highways. This is where Christianity came in, and this is the point of focus. Christian doctrine was used to teach the people that God looked like their slave master, and therefore their enslavement was the will of God. And the Bible is conveniently full of scriptures like 1 Peter 2 verses 18 to 20, NIV, that made people accept all this rubbish without question. This is not the word and should not be. The introduction of the cross shipped terrorism to the shores of the West Indies. The people were not terrorists or wild savages as styled by their white lords. They terrorized no one and were quite normal until the British pestilence called Christianity clouded their minds to this day. The reasons with the fallen angels, Jude 1 and 2 Peter 2 verse 4, have been running the show on the planet for 2,000 years through the banking, political, and religious systems. The end of the world is the end of their seed, the seed of Cain, and the rise of another, the seed of Seth. Endnotes. Have they seen the news? They actually went bankrupt of ideas for shoes and clothing worn by black entertainers. Sean Combs and Kanye West are responsible for changing the style of dress, wearing black suits and dress shoes. The Pope Francis is visiting the White House on September 23, 2015, and is to be hosted by Obama. This is something to watch, as the next move could be a possible negotiation and pardon. Jamaica is seeking pardon, and are other world countries? Debt pardon comes after they starve a country. There is a precedent for this. The historic visit marks the third time a pontiff has visited the White House. He, Pope Francis, also plans to attend the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia and speak with the United Nations in New York City on September 25, 2015. Originally, Greece was known for its knowledge. Every country was known for something. France was known for fashion. Israel was known for its military at one time. Scientists like Tesla had his blueprints taken. Some went to countries like that, and Germany had them. The United States received them. America is known for controlling the cinema, or so they are responsible for the portrayal of the idea of beauty. Golda was the name of the first female prime minister of Israel and the action company, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Cinemas. Diagram. Cross the brain with a TV or a cinema, however or whatever lights one sees. Each has an effect on the brain and emotions. Just sitting and watching colors change before one's eyes, and the tone of voices, music they play behind. All these elements are taking control of subconscious control, controlling one's very emotions, what the brain processes. The hippocampus part of the brain controls the release of all the hormones. The evil ones move into one's dreams, an area where one processes them as real and accepts them. So by accepting what they put there, everything one sees, hears, tastes, feels, or smells is accepted over truth, facts, evidence, and reason. One must look around, open one's mind's eye. The sounds on the radio, one thinks they like, but it plays on the airwaves. The author of these things, I like him or her. Let him have a part in this world, for a time. A movie, cinema, or play that he approved of, created, and he will be cunning by taking over one's mind. Demons, control, and wicked spirits to invoke his magic spell on one. Dress, music, foods, culture all are in his web to trap and hold in life until it is too late. The war is happening before one's very eyes. Once the extraterrestrials, angels, mix their own 46 chromosomes to match the planet's 23 degrees, one has 23 plus 23 is equal to 46 chromosomes. And the outcome of the mixing with the simian creatures with the mind of all three and often underdeveloped physical actions, DNA in them. They are not like humans. The author of this was a Samaritan, a person who had fragmented angel DNA. The mind of the Simian is that of a 3-year-old. The mind of the Pleiadian is wicked, evil. The result is that they have knowledge of the future or divination. The original Earth name was something else. Now naming each of the beasts of the field, the ability to speak was given to them. They programmed this new race of a kind of man, an ape, to be slave workers, entertainers, those of the music industry today. Single Ladies by Beyoncé is a robotic dance of mind control. So they designed genes like savants to serve them as slaves and tillers. Yet the actual minds of the males of the Adamite race never get older than that of a 13-year-old. They must have toys, play games, contests, danger, fight, or act like a child, never acting like an adult. So they created a game, the cinema, where they can get out all their repressed feelings, being superheroes of all kinds. The genes today are seen or thought to be hobbies, talents, skills. These were all put into the mixture from the savant part of the gene pool. The result is one sees people of all ages who are obsessed with something. Some are obsessed with drumming, dancing, singing, cooking, sewing, painting, fighting, killing, serving, and sporting games and so much more, even sex, resulting in many cases as whores or prostitution, or girls who just go from boy to boy or man to man called boyfriends. My lover. She is a store to imitate. So they took Enosite females, not Adamites, only daughters of Enos. 200 of them came down, fallen angels, Nephilim. The offspring turned out evil and wicked, human flesh-eaters, giants called mighty Nephilim. They had to be killed to stop this gene from spreading. The Creator stepped in and wiped them out. The offspring of the ones who were tall, wicked, and evil were produced by mixing with their parents. So the gene was for this planet. The 24 plus 24 is equal to 48 chromosomes of the simian creatures, with 23 plus 23 is equal to 46 chromosomes of the humanoid creature, with 23% plus 23% equals 47 chromosomes of the Anunnaki creature. Then more crossbreeding was done for the freak show and mixing in Egypt of this humanoid mankind with canine, simian, dogs, pigs, and monkeys, and a creature was created, the image. The confused were cut down by the flood. Some escaped, however. He is not humane. He never can be civilized. A flesh-eater, a drug-taker, alcohol drinker, lives by greed, lust, killing, the image of devils on earth. Man's kind, a kind of man, beast. He mixes his genes with all others to spread his mental disease and culture the world over. Of the 24,000 genes, he only uses 6,000 of the human genes. The rest is beast. His mental age is only 13, so he calls it the age of the devil in their religious book. In their religion, bar mitzvah for males, bat mitzvah for females. Later, the evil offspring of their religion from Torah laws changed it to 21 for males and 18 for females. A multiple of 6 plus 6 plus 6 is equal to 18. Yet their minds never get above age 13. To them, life and death is a game of chance. All this results in virus and disease. They were given 6,000 years from 400 BC to take control of the whole planet, i.e., 6,000 years of sin. The day is the end of their rule over the earth, sky, land, and all the people of other races on earth. The dark races, Africans, the brown Indians, the black, yellow, and Asians, all by the year 2020 AD. They fail in all ways and are falling apart before one's very eyes. And now they are removed from world power, wealth, and rule. The role of dominion is out of their reach as they fade from existence. The world moves on as they in fright seek others to back them in objective, those with much of their DNA ruling their genes by mixing. Yet their own conception of God and religion is working against them now. Mosesism, Old Testament, Jesusism, New Testament, Mohammedism, Last Testament, has them all fighting and killing each other and the rest of the world. Hinduism, Buddhism, animism, Adventism stand off from afar and watch them destroy themselves. The fallen is fallen, their self-destruction has begun. Holding their Bible, Apollyon, the Greek for the destroyer, Revelation 9 verse 11, and Abaddon, the Hebrew for destruction, Revelation 9 verse 11. The year 9/11, 2001, when the Mohammedans of the Last Testament, the Quran, attacked the Christians and Jews at the World Trade Building. Revelation about that, Revelation 10 verse 2. The Quran, the Last Testament, only has 114 chapters compared to the others, and it is little and brings on the seven thunders. It's according to their own religions. Their final hour or 60 minutes. The author said the final hour or the beginning of sorrows is years from 2001, the end of their world. This is a promise. The great controversy ends. All this is happening with extraterrestrials coming down to Earth, which many have believed for many millions of years as a vacuum. For many other star systems, beings from their own world were transplanted here on Earth. Some changes were also mixed. In from the gods. Food is prepared to eat. Reptilians who ate humans as food. The reptilians from Draco abduct people from the sky and can take huge planes out of the sky without a trace. Hunger in the Bible. The covenant offering sacrifice, abduction, missing people by ordinary means. Also, the Aldebarans, who dealt with the Nazi up to 1945 AD, then with the USA when the Nazi went to America during Operation Paperclip. They put the USA in touch with Aldebarans who work with the Germans and Russians, who left their home habitation, Jude 1. This is by the seed of the Amorites. By their lust, the Tahiti race called them, 15 to 13, 16, Anunnaki. The curse upon them mixed with others to make hybrids, mixing, the new method to prolong their race. The Anunnaki are the faces one sees on TV newscasters and anchors. This audiobook was uploaded by Hidden Whispers Revelation on YouTube. Please subscribe and like the video to support this work if you enjoyed listening. Enki, God, warned Nanner, Satan, to his face not to touch the primary seed of his creation. He, Enki, warned, "Do not touch my children." And Africa has AIDS and Ebola. The children of Enki are the peculiar treasure he created unto himself. Satan violated an agreement and touched the children of Enki. Today, as the custom of the Anunnaki, it is still eye for eye. Lord Enki said, "You hurt my people, and now I will destroy yours." They have tried to prolong their stay as a species on Earth many times before, yet they found mixing with the Indians did not work, mixing with the Asians did not work, mixing with the Africans did not work. So they turned to violence as a final resort, eliminating those not in favor of them. So now they plant and mix with subraces. They mixed with Celtics, 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 and took over the Spaniards, because there are two groups of Jews today, the red-skinned ones called Edomites. Looking at the state of Israel today, one sees red skin and white skin. Jewism is not a race, it's a religion. Edomites, red skin, ruddy. Canaanites, white skin, albinos, and pale white. The Canaanites are the race of men that will be eaten by the lords, gargoyles, that fly in the sky. Revelation 19 verse 18. The birds will be fed on their flesh. Genesis 1 verses 26 to 27, ruddy, reddish. Genesis 6 verses 1 to 5, mixed, can be both. Genesis 9 verse 25, lepers, white. These are the seeds of the beasts made for show to other extraterrestrials and as slaves, workers, entertainers, sexual pleasures, warriors, and even food. The seed of the Edomites and those who join unto them, Levi, Leviathan, joined on to the Draconians, his laws and ways of living, cultures, religion, and image of the beast. Giants in the Bible, 7 to 9 feet tall, Genesis and others. Rephaim, Deuteronomy 2 verses 20 to 21. Nephilim, Genesis 6 verse 4. Zamzamims, Deuteronomy 2 verse 20. Philistines, immigrants, 1 Chronicles 20 verses 20 to 21. This audiobook was uploaded by Hidden Whispers Revelation on YouTube. Please subscribe and like the video to support this work if you enjoyed listening.